keeping with our theme of, what teams who are picked towards the top will have to do to win the Big 12. Today, Texas Tech, as they are picked third. Or fourth, sorry. We did Oklahoma yesterday. They were picked third. They are picked fourth. So Texas Tech, number 5. Craig, you put this in my head a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Tech, and it is know that you're not sneaking up on anybody. I think they need to prepare that they're not a dark horse anymore. They've tons of people have been talking about them. There's nobody out there that's going to wonder if Tech is going to be good or not, or going to assume that they could be bad. They have to prepare every game like they're not sneaking up on anybody and not think that they're a dark horse anymore, because I think even just here year 2 of Joey McGuire, that is over.
Yeah, I mean, I think their opportunity to sneak up was last year. And, at this point, if you aren't well aware of the momentum, whether it's, off the field or on the field, what have you, then you're living with your head in the sand. And I don't know how you could possibly be surprised. If you get surprised and snuck up on by Texas Tech this year, people should look at your job, because that's just irresponsible as a head coach or a staff to not be ready for them to, on home field or away field, be ready to, punch you in the mouth and expect to get punched back and you get ready to go toe-to-toe. So, yeah, I don't think that they're a dark horse in any way, shape, or form. They might be a little ahead of schedule, but they're not a surprise team at this point.
No, not at all. Number 4, keep the QBs healthy. And, look, mostly it's Tyler Shough. I mean, keep Tyler Shough healthy and your season's going to be way better than you can possibly imagine based on the way he finished last year. But, look, Baron Morton showed that he can do it, but also he had to deal with some injuries as well.
Listen,
they rotated through 3 guys last year, and the fact that they were as good as they were doing that was amazing. But if they can keep Tyler Shough healthy, and even if Tyler Shough gets banged up, if they don't have to rotate through 3 guys again, it'll be way better off.
How many teams in the Big 12 have someone who already has a lot of experience, not a lot, but a lot of experience that Baron Morton had as a freshman?
I mean, there's not. I mean, it's hard to say that. I mean, otherwise people wouldn't be madly scrambling in the transfer portal to get him. Look at Baylor going after Sawyer Robertson. Sawyer Robertson's not even a guy who has a lot of experience, but Baylor went and got, they had 2 guys they had to bring in, so they had some experience at quarterback. It is not, there's not a farm that you go to and say, I would like 3 quarterbacks, please. Put them in the back of the truck.
Craig, I know Texas has a deep quarterback room and obviously led by Quinn Ewers, and they've got people waiting in the wings, but how many other schools, just off the top of your head, have someone like what Tech has as a backup who's at least proven he can win in the Big 12?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's a homework assignment.
But I bet this less than half.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm going to have to sit here and think of every quarterback room and like 2 or 3 guys for each one. So, I don't know. They're pretty well set up. I mean,
Baylor, no. Texas, no. Look, Texas has guys that are highly thought of, but Malik Murphy and Orange haven't played. Look, BYU just went and got Keaton Slovis. Houston got one of those.
Iowa State doesn't even know if they have the first guy.
Exactly. So, yeah, it might be less than half. It might be less than a third.
Half without even having to study it. But
absolutely.
So 12. No, I mean, they got a good quarterback room. I think, we kind of need to slow down on the Tyler Shough love just a little bit. I understand he's got a nice record. I believe it's like 8-1 as a starter at Tech or something along those lines, because he's played, in a few games each of the last 2 years in Lubbock. But he has gotten hurt on both occasions. And, that looks really good. And you say, oh, well, if he was just healthy, then 8-1 would be 16-1. But it doesn't exactly work that way. That's not how it works. So I hope he does stay healthy, so that the question of, man, what could they do if Tyler Shough's healthy all year? I hope we get to see that, because this is the last opportunity he's going to have to be able to show that. So it'd be nice to get the full run out of him and see if, in fact, that does translate to winning 10 games or something along those lines, because when he has played, they've typically been successful.
Number 3, keep winning those close games. They did it last year. Baylor didn't. TCU did it last year. Baylor didn't. West Virginia didn't. Those schools that the flip was on didn't win the close games. And most of the Big 12 is close games. So you've got to keep yourself on that side of the coin, because, they might be better than they were last year, but it's not like they're going to, all of a sudden they woke up this morning and they're Georgia. They're going to be better in most people's estimations, but you're still going to be playing in the deepest or at least Yeah, I think in the deepest league, as far as 1 to 14, there's probably not as much gap as everywhere else in the rest of the country. So yeah, you've got to keep winning those close games, and they're probably for the most part all going to be close.
Yeah, I think that they really had some fortunate things go their way. Dylan Gabriel getting hurt was obviously Bijan Robinson fumbling at the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
Those are 2 overtime wins. I don't know, some of that's to their credit, obviously, forcing and making plays happen. I don't know how sustainable that all is, but if it is, then, that's one heck of a way to make sure that even in your down years, you're still winning more games than most because you're winning close games, and there's going to be a lot of close games in the Big 12. So, yeah, they were really good about that. Really outside of – Baylor kicked their backsides bad. Final score-wise, there was a moment there in the fourth quarter where if a couple things go differently, all of a sudden it's like a 2-score game, and it could have gotten weird. But for the most part, Baylor dominated that game. Outside of that, I think every game, maybe except for one more, maybe – because I can't remember exactly. We're all within 2 scores either way. So, yeah, they're used to playing in close games, and if you can be on the positive side of that, that'll go a long way.
Number 2, get better on defense. They absolutely have to do that. That was obviously their weak link last year that, much like we said about Oklahoma yesterday, that was number 1, was tackle somebody. But Tech has to get better on defense. And part of that is, the defense adjusting to the pace, the breakneck speed that Zach Kitley's going to run on offense and being ready and having that depth. That's the key, really. When you've got the air raid offensive coordinator to the other side, you got to really have about 17 guys you're ready to run through on your side that you feel good like first teamers, not and Phil Bennett told us this is he kind of felt good about 13 guys, and that's what in a lot of games would kind of get them beat, because you need to go 17, 18 sometimes, because if you're going to be going, you've got to have fresh legs.
They had one of the best defensive players drafted in Wilson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Young man from East Texas said they just didn't have enough of him. Now, and you're not going to have too many of him because he was that good. But yeah, they need to be able to not get into always just shootouts to win games. They need to be able to win games with their defense making plays too.
Well, and he wasn't always healthy either.
Yeah,
Tyree Wilson, he got hurt. Remember, had to have surgery and missed most of the late part of the year, so didn't even get to close out the way that he would have liked to have. But he was an impactful guy and obviously very talented to get drafted where he did. But yes, they do need to improve defensively. I think they've got some playmakers and guys with a lot of potential on that side of the ball. But yeah, if you're looking for improvement, that's where that's one of the first places you start to look, because you feel pretty good about the offense and what they're going to be able to do. They're going to score some points, but can they stop others from scoring points? That's the question.
Number 1, win on the road. They did not win on the road last year. They did not do a good job of that, particularly early in the season, which, every time you thought hey, look at Tech, then they're going to lose on the road. They've got to win those games on the road. So if you're going to win the Big 12, you're going to win the conference, you're going to be in that conference title game, you got to win more games on the road than they did last year. I don't really need to harp on that very much more, because it's kind of obvious. If you don't win on the road, you're not going to win the conference. You have to win more than you lose. You can't, go barely over 500 or under 500 on the road and do that. You got to win those games.
Yeah, because, Baylor, they didn't do it against Baylor, but they protect their home turf for the most part. It's a tough place to play. It gets crazy, night games, whatever.
All over the place, yeah.
It's a great environment. It's a fantastic environment. But, yeah, you're going to have to win. You're going to have to win at least a small handful of games on the road to be a part of any conversation later on in November.
Well, they technically won in Houston for their bowl game, but I know that doesn't play into the Big 12 standings. But I do want to at least make note of they technically got a neutral site or whatever you would even want to call that. But, yeah, you have to be able to win on the road to stand a chance of winning championships, bottom line. Even Baylor's got 8 home games, but if they go 8-4, they're probably not winning the Big 12.
Yep.
So, yeah, you got to go on the road and be able to win. That goes without saying, but I think that's something that they really have to hammer home. And, how we asked Joey McGuire about that tomorrow, I guess, of how do you approach improving that specific area. Maybe he'll shed some light on that. But, yeah, they were not very good away from home last year.
Kim Coulter, why did we win those close games when we did at Tech? Because the damn defense was good between the 20s, which was always the Phil Bennett remember what we have to do and held teams to field goals, which is how you win those games when people are scoring. You give up the touchdowns, man. You got to match them. Also, a couple of the notes and great, Paul, top five.
Yeah, they weren't atrocious defensively. They
weren't like they couldn't stop
no,
anybody.
But there's room for improvement to be a Big 12 champion, and